Okay, so just a reminder, a few things. One, I am recording, but if you need to come on because you don't hear me, I don't make sense, you have a question, feel free to come on. I'll just edit that part out of the video. Listen to your body, only do what's comfortable for you. If we come into a pose that doesn't feel right, please come out, come into any resting pose, and then join us again whenever you're ready. Okay, so let's begin here by taking deep inhales in through the nose and into the diaphragm, and long, slow exhales out. On your exhales, releasing your day, your week, any thoughts that don't serve you, any distractions. Okay, so we're going to do a little bit of a breath practice here to begin. So continue breathing however is comfortable for you, whether it's into your chest, into your diaphragm, whatever your natural rhythm of breath is. Maybe just slow it down a little bit. And then I invite you to notice if there is a pause between the inhale and the exhale. And if there's a pause between the exhale and the inhale. Even if it's just for a split second, just notice. All right, so our class today is based on a quote by Viktor Frankl. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Much of what we do in yoga and meditation is about widening the space between stimulus and response so that our experience of being a human in the world is one that is less akin to being a plastic bag blowing about in the wind and more similar to being a tree that can weather the changing seasons, shifted, changed, but steady. Frankl's quote taps into that idea and reminds us that the space already exists for all of us. Yoga gives us the capacity to be present to this space and to understand it is our way to a blissful life. So as you settle into your body here, see if you can tune into the space inside that you know is there, but you don't always get a chance to access in our busy world. Breathe deeply and say hello to this interior you, the you that remains unchanged by all that happens in the world. As we move today, return to this. So bringing a little bit of movement here into your body. Maybe that little bit of movement becomes bigger movements. All right, so hugging both knees in towards your chest. Perhaps finding some circles here in the knees. Maybe they're big circles, little circles. Perhaps they go the same direction or the opposite direction from each other. All right, let's find a wind relief pose. Hugging the right knee in towards the chest, placing the left foot on the earth. We're activating the right foot here, so slightly curling back the toes. And then perhaps extending that left leg long if it feels good for you. As you hug the knee in, where does it feel best to send the knee? Do you want to send it towards the chest or maybe more towards the armpit or even further out to the side? What feels good for you and your body? Let's find one more round of breath here. And then placing the right foot to the earth. Hugging the left knee in, activating the left foot. Perhaps the right leg comes long. Same thing here. Where does it feel good to send that knee? And remember to stay with your breath. Maybe returning to the pauses, the space between each breath, or the space inside of you. Finding one more round of breath here. And then releasing that foot down towards the earth. Rolling over to one side, whichever side is calling for you. And then gently making your way up to seated. So any comfortable seated position here for you. And as we move through some of our poses today, we're going to hold our pose for a few rounds of breath to find that stillness, right? All right, so from here, we'll come into tailor pendulum swing, right hand to the earth, left hand, palm faces up, reaching that left arm up and over, softening the left shoulder down. Maybe you walk that right hand away a little bit further if it feels good. Perhaps even the right forearm comes to the earth as long as both sits bones remain on the earth. Find your breath. Feel your body expand on your inhale. Maybe there's a pause. And come back together on your exhale. Perhaps another pause. And on your next inhale, let's come back to center. Come over to the other side, right palm faces up, reaching the right arm up and over, softening that top shoulder down. And notice where it feels good to send your head, or I guess not send your head, where it feels good to look. You may even drop the head so the ear comes towards the shoulder, left ear to left shoulder. Yeah. And on your next inhale, coming back to center. We're going to find a twist here. Right hand comes to the left knee and the left hand comes behind you. On your inhale, lengthen your spine, and on your exhale, turning. So just go as far as you feel comfortable. It's still early in the practice. On your next inhale, lengthen your spine. Exhale, come back to center. And we'll come over to the other side, left hand to right knee, right hand behind you. Inhale to lengthen and exhale to turn. On your next inhale, lengthening the spine. And exhale, coming back to center. We'll come into a tabletop pose. So wrists underneath the shoulders, knees underneath the hips. If you wish, you can always place a blanket underneath the knees for some padding. And just a reminder to grip your fingers into the earth, slightly cupping your hands here. Imagine there's a ladybug underneath there that you don't want to squish. Keeping the hands nice and active to protect the wrists. And then we're just going to find some cat cows. So rounding your spine, tucking your chin, tucking your tailbone, arching the back up towards the sky. And then moving in the opposite direction, tailbone points up towards the sky, shoulders roll back and down the spine. So just moving with your own breath. See where it's more comfortable to inhale and where it's more comfortable to exhale. So finding one more in each direction. And then coming back to your tabletop pose. And then into child's pose. Any variation that feels good for you. Maybe it's knees together, knees apart. Maybe the arms are long, or perhaps you bring them back by your feet. What is your body asking for? So before we move on to our more active part of our class today, a little bit here to touch upon. Why does movement in yoga class give us greater ability to choose our response to the world? In every movement, pose, and breath, you are getting to know yourself more. You are creating more of a connection to yourself. You are deepening your ability to access the secret, quiet space inside. So finding one more round of breath. And then making your way back into your tabletop. And then we're going to come forward into a plank pose. So any variation of plank that feels good for you. It could be knees down. Maybe you curl the toes under, lift the knees. So we want to push our hands into the earth, push the earth away, draw the navel in. Try not to let the hips dip down. We want a nice straight line in the spine. And we're going to hold for 3, 2, 1. Let's come back into our downward dog. So sending the hips back behind you as much of a bend in your knees as you need. Sorry, I got a cramp. Shoulders roll back and down the spine. There we go. Okay. And we're going to hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Shift back into your plank pose, whatever variation you need. Draw the navel in and hold. 2, and 1. We're going to come right back again into our downward dog. Find your breath. Okay, so making your way towards the front of your mat to come into a forward fold. However it feels comfortable for you to get there. In our forward fold, our feet are hip distance apart, allowing the upper body to dangle. Maybe you release tension here in your neck and as much of a bend in your knees as you need, so there's no discomfort here in the backs of your thighs and in your low back. We're going to hold for just a few rounds of breath. All right, let's bring our hands to our hips, lengthening your spine and then coming up nice and slow with a flat back. So mountain pose, Tadasana, feet are hip distance apart still. Squeezing the inner thighs together, shoulders roll back and down, the spine, crown of the head reaches high. So we want to rotate our hands so that the palms of our hands face forward. So nice and active here, even draw the belly button in and up. It looks like we're just standing here, but there's so much going on. Just a couple rounds of breath here. Connect to the earth beneath you. Connect to that space inside of you. And on your next inhale, bringing the arms up towards the sky, extended mountain, softening the shoulders. And we turn, you can't see from where I am, you turn the hands in so that you're sending the pinkies forward. Extended mountain. And on your next exhale, arms come out to the side with a flat back, swan diving down into forward fold. Inhale, let's come into a halfway lift, flat back. And exhale, forward fold. Hands come to the earth, take a big step back with the right foot and lower the right knee to the earth. Squeezing the inner thighs to rise. Soften the shoulders. And we want to make sure that front knee is over the ankle and in line with the second or third toe. We're going to find a couple rounds of breath here. So maybe you kind of sink and settle here. Feel that stretch along the front of the right thigh. Shoulders roll away from the ears. And then squeeze the inner thighs. Ooh, notice what happens. And on your exhale, hands come down to the earth. Come back into your tabletop pose. And then back into downward dog. Okay, allowing both feet, walking your feet up towards the front of your mat. Yesterday I said something about if you have feet. All right, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. And exhale, two folds, taking a big step back with the left foot. Lowering the left knee to the earth. Squeezing our thighs to rise. Soften the shoulders. Feel your breath. And on your next exhale, hands come down to the earth. Coming into your tabletop pose. And back once again into downward dog. Walking your feet up towards the front of your mat into forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, hinge from the hips, forward fold. And on your next inhale, arms come out to the side, reverse swan dive up into extended mountain. And exhale, hands come to heart center. Take a moment to connect. On your next inhale, reaching up, extended mountain. Exhale, flat back, swan diving down, forward fold. Inhale into halfway lift. This time, exhale, shift the hips back, coming into chair pose, sending the tailbone down towards the earth. Shift your weight back into your heels, lift the heart, soften the shoulders. All right, let's find a few rounds of breath in our chair. I want to say it's also called fierce pose. There's so many names for every pose. One more round of breath. And then exhale, swan diving down into a forward fold. All right, let's take a big step back with the left foot. We're going to set up for warrior two. So left foot is parallel to the back of the mat. Front foot intersects with the middle of the back foot, windmilling the arms up. So we square our hips towards the long edge of the mat. We check to make sure the front knee is over the ankle in line with the second or third toe. So let's turn the palms up towards the sky, feel the shoulders drop. And then turn the palms back down. Take a look over both arms, make sure the arms are coming out straight, and then focus goes over the front hand. A couple more rounds of breath. Beautiful. Let's straighten that front leg, micro bend in the front knee, keeping the hips squared to the side of the mat, reaching forward with the right hand. And then right hand comes down either thigh, shin, a block for the earth. Triangle pose. In our triangle, we want to imagine there's a wall behind us, so both hips, shoulders, and head come up against the wall. Let's bend into that front knee and come back into our warrior two. Again, gaze goes over that front hand. And then windmilling the hands to frame the front foot, coming up on the back toes. Let's come into our plank pose. Any variation of plank here. And then shifting your weight forward, drop your knees. If you haven't already, tuck the elbows and lower to the earth. Let's find a baby cobra. Shoulders roll back and down the spine. Hands are underneath the shoulders. Tucking the elbows in by the sides. Tops of the feet push down to the earth. Looking at the earth so you have a straight line in your neck. Lift your heart. Lowering all the way to the earth. And then either reverse push up or tabletop. Downward dog. Walking your feet up towards the front of your mat. And on your next inhale, coming into a halfway lift, draw the navel in, crown of the head reaches forward, find equal weight in the four corners of your feet. And then exhale, come back into your chair pose. Slight tuck of the tailbone, lift the heart forward, softening the shoulders. Thunderbolt, another name. And then there's the Sanskrit name. Exhale, swan diving down, forward fold. We'll set up for warrior two on the other side. So right foot takes a big step back behind you, coming parallel to the back of the mat. Front heel intersects with the middle of the back foot. Windmilling the arms up. Squaring the hips towards the side of the mat. Check your knee. The most important thing is that our knee does not collapse in, which is often what happens. So we want to be able to even see the big toe possibly. I guess it depends on what your feet are like. Soften the shoulders, gaze goes over the front hand. Find your breath. One more round of breath. And then straightening that front leg, micro bend in the knee. Keep the hips square to the side, reaching with the left hand and coming into your triangle on this side. So any variation of triangle, hand can come to thigh, shin, walk the earth. I turned around on the mat so that I'm not backwards. I may have messed you up. All right, windmilling the arms back up into warrior two, taking the gaze over the front hand one more time. And then windmilling the hands towards the front of the mat. Come up on the back toes, come into either tabletop, plank, or a variation of plank, and hold. Slow doesn't always mean easy. Shifting your weight forward, drop your knees if you haven't already, tuck the elbows and lower. So let's find that baby cobra once again. Tops of the feet push down to the earth, lift the heart. And we want to try and not put a lot of pressure into the hands. So maybe even lifting the hands up off the earth. We're using our back to hold us up. Like a snake, right? No hands. Lowering all the way to the earth. And either reverse push up or tabletop. Downward dog. Gripping your fingers into the earth. Trying not to lock out the elbows. Send the hips back. All right, let's walk the feet up towards the front of the mat once again. And on your next inhale, reverse swan dive up into extended mountain. And exhale, hands come to heart center. All right, little challenge. So we're going to find kind of what we just did again. We're going to add on to it, one of which is going to be half moon. So half moon, often we find a block since a lot of us can't reach the floor. When we come into half moon, the arms are just not long enough. So having a block nearby at the front of your mat. And then finding mountain pose. Inhale, extended mountain. Exhale, flat back, swan diving down, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, back into your chair. One more round of breath. Then exhale, forward fold. Let's step the left foot back, coming into that warrior two. Left foot's parallel to the back of the mat. Squaring the hips towards the side. All right, this time let's find a reverse warrior. Left hand comes down, front palm turns up, reaching that arm up and over, finding length here along the right side body. Still bend into that front knee. Windmilling the arms back to warrior two. We're going to find triangle again, straightening the front leg. Reach with the front arm. Find your variation of triangle. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to bend into that front knee. See if you can find your block. Maybe you need to turn around to find your block. So the block is going to come forward and to the right. If you don't have a block, but you can reach the floor, that's totally okay too. And then we're going to shift our weight forward into the right foot. Left foot comes up off the earth. Sure, I've mentioned this to all of you before. I used to hate this pose. One more round of breath here. And then slowly bending into that front knee, step the left foot back, come back into your warrior two. Exhale, windmilling the hands forward, framing the front foot, come back into your plank pose. Your variation of plank. Shifting your weight forward, drop your knees, tuck the elbows lower. So maybe you find baby cobra or sphinx pose. In our sphinx, forearms come to the earth, elbows underneath the shoulders. Tops of the feet push down to the earth. So we want to push our arms into the earth. So we're pushing away from the earth. Draw the arms in closer towards you, so kind of energetically, and then so you can send the heart forward. One more round of breath here. We're going to take a little break. So let's come into child's pose. So lower to the earth, come into tabletop, and then back into child's pose, your variation of child's. Come back to your deepest self here. Connect to that interior as you breathe. So as we continue through our practice, I invite you to look for the space between what happens in the world and how you respond. All right, let's make our way back into our tabletop pose. Curling the toes under, sending the hips up and back behind you, downward dog. Allowing the feet to come up towards the front of the mat into a forward fold. Inhale into halfway lift, flat back here. Find equal weight in the four corners of your feet. If you're like, what? Big toe mound, baby toe mound, inner heel, outer heel. Drawing the crown of the head forward. Draw the navel in, protecting your low back. And on your next exhale, come back into your chair pose. Send the tailbone down. Shift the weight into your heels. Lift the hearts. Can you imagine squeezing a block between your thighs? And on your next exhale, swan diving down into forward fold. We're going to take a big step back here with the right foot, coming into our warrior two on the other side. So check the front knee, make sure that it's over the ankle in line with the second or third toe. And eventually where we want to get with the warrior two is so that that front leg is parallel to the earth eventually. Looking over your front hand. Can you find equal weight in the four corners of both feet? Reverse warrior, back hand comes down, front palm turns up. We're reaching up and over, we're moving from the waist. So rather than moving from the hips, the whole movement comes from the waist up. Hips stay where they are. Notice what's happening in this pose. Notice the space between what happens and how you respond. All right, let's straighten that front leg. Arms are going to come back to warrior two arms. We'll reach forward here, sorry, with the left hand. Find your variation of triangle. We keep a micro bend in the front knee. Palm faces forward. I forgot my block. All right, so we're gonna bend into the front knee. Grab your block if you have one. You have to walk that back foot in. So hand or block is going to go forward and then over to the left, shifting your weight into your left foot. I don't want to come into my fireplace. Right foot comes up off the earth. So that left foot is still facing forward. Toes still face forward. And we want to square the hips towards the long edge of the mat as much as we can. Doing good. One more round of breath. Slowly bend into that front knee. Step the right foot back. Come into warrior two. Windmilling the hands down to frame the front foot. Step into your plank, into your tabletop, and back into child's pose. One more round of breath here. And then making your way to seated. Okay, so in our seated pose, if you have a blanket, you may wish to find the blanket and place it underneath your sits bones. If you don't have one, it's okay. It just kind of helps us to sit up a little bit taller. We're going to come into a forward fold. So legs are going to come out in front. You're going to find your sits bones, that comfortable place to help you sit up nice and tall. And activate both feet, curl back the toes. This protects our knees. So when we come forward, if it feels like you're trying to reach, but you can't seem to reach and you don't have enough space, or if there's discomfort along the backs of the knees, you can grab something, another blanket, some blocks, even fists to place underneath the knees. Also, we push the heels into the earth to help us when we fold forward so that we're not locking out the knees. All right, all those instructions, activate the feet, lengthen the spine, and on your exhale, hinge forward from your hips. If you can come down with a flat back, maybe you walk the hands forward. And you want to imagine here that you're sending your heart towards your toes rather than trying to come down towards your legs. That way we keep a flat back and we find length in both the upper and the lower body. Keep the feet active. Look, excuse me, look for the space. Okay, one more round of breath. And then slowly coming back up. All right, we're gonna make our way down onto the floor. If you happen to have a block or a blanket, bringing it close by. If you don't have one, it's okay. Do a different variation. So we're gonna come onto our back. So it's either gonna be a bridge or a supported bridge. So I'll show you supported bridge first. Feet are on the earth, knees are bent, feet are hip distance apart. Grabbing your prop, whatever it is, pushing the feet into the earth to lift your hips, slide the prop underneath. So we don't want it to go in the low back, we want it further down. All right, so this is our supported bridge. If you wish, maybe coming into a just bridge without the support, pushing the feet into the earth, lift the hips, squeeze the inner thighs, squeeze the glutes. We'll do a nice gentle one here. Leave the arms by the side. And notice your breath, whichever variation you are in. Finding space. Holding for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you're in full bridge, dropping the hips. If you're in a supported bridge, pushing your feet into the earth, lift the hips and slide the prop out from underneath you, slowly bringing the hips down towards the earth. We're all going to stay here, no sudden movements, allowing the back to soften, adjusting to the flatness of the earth. And then perhaps walking the feet about mat distance apart and windshield wipering the knees from side to side, nice and slow. All right, let's walk the feet back towards each other about hip distance apart. Reposition the back flat on the earth. All right, so eye of the needle, also known as a pigeon on your back. All right, so we're gonna cross the right ankle over the left thigh, activating the right foot. So you decide how far you wanna go here. Maybe this is enough and you just push the right thigh away from you to feel a bit of a stretch along the outer right thigh, maybe into the hip. Or perhaps you draw the legs in closer towards you, grabbing a hold of the left leg somewhere. It could be pant leg, around the back of the leg, maybe the shin. And then we soften the shoulders here. So just a little mention here, a little tip. If you have a hard time finding that left leg, if you in the future, if you have a strap or a tie, something long that you could use, you can wrap the strap around the left leg and use the strap to pull your legs in closer. Let's find 2 more rounds of breath. And then once that is complete for you, allowing the left foot to come to the earth, we're going to uncross the legs and come over to the other side, activating the left foot, left ankle crosses over the right thigh. Finding whatever variation feels the best for you here on this side. Know that it may be different from the first side. Notice if you're holding tension in your jaw, around your eyes, the shoulders, and the hips. Softening here. Finding 2 more rounds of breath. And then releasing the legs and crossing the legs. Okay, we're going to find a twist. I'll lead you through a gentle twist, but if there is another variation that feels good for you and your body, please find it. For a gentle twist, we shift the hips only over to the left side and then drop the knees over towards the right. Oops. Keeping both shoulders on the earth. Perhaps you look over towards the left side. As you inhale, feel your body expand, creating space. And as you exhale, feel your body coming back together. With every exhale, softening the shoulders, softening the hips. Not sure if I mentioned this before. I think on the schedule it says this class is 55 minutes. It's an hour. We don't have another class. That's fine. One more round of breath. And then allowing the knees to come back to center. Repositioning the back flat on the earth. This time, hips shift over to the right side of the mat. Knees drop over to the left. Again, try and soften the shoulders down to the earth. Maybe you look to the right. All right, so you decide when this side feels complete to you. And when it does, coming over onto your back and then finding Shavasana or any final resting shape here on the earth. Anything that'll help you relax and settle. And then reconnecting to your breath. Can you find that stillness, that space between the inhale and the exhale? And between the exhale and the inhale. Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. As you leave your practice today, perhaps you vow to nurture this connection to your deeper self. Return to it throughout your evening, maybe over the next few days. And know that when you come back to the deepest part of yourself, you are cultivating a clearer path to happiness. Perhaps taking the next few minutes to just breathe. There's nothing you need to do. Know where you need to be, nothing you need to change. Gently bringing your awareness back into the room, into your space. Perhaps you notice the air on your skin, any sounds around you. Maybe it's the sound of your breath or your heartbeat. Feeling the touch points of your body on the earth. Noticing any smells. Is there perhaps a taste in your mouth? If your eyes are still closed, notice if there's perhaps a little bit of light behind your eyelids. And then bringing some small movements into your body. Perhaps you rock your head from side to side. Maybe rolling the wrists and the ankles. Finding any movements here that your body is asking for. And then rolling over to one side, whichever side is calling for you. And slowly making your way up to seated. And once you get there, lowering or closing your eyes. One last time, notice your breath. You notice stillness, space, somewhere in the breath. It's within these moments of stillness, within this space, that we find our true selves. May your day be filled with peace, love, and gratitude. Thank you for joining me. Have a beautiful evening.